All right, Desert Ridge Academy 6th graders, it's Miss Hillman. I am now back from eating that delicious pie. Boy, oh boy, can Miss Thomas make an amazing apple pie. All right, now that I'm good and full, we're going to look at the problem I posed to you before I took a break. We looked at an apple pie, and I told you I was going to eat 25%, so a quarter of the apple pie. And I wanted to know how many calories would that come to. So essentially we're answering the question, what is 25% of 3,528? Now this is a common problem that you will see. This is called finding the percent of a number, where you're going to take a number and you're going to take out a portion of it. So in this case, I'm taking out 25%, and I want to know how much did I actually take out. We call this the whole because that represents the whole amount. So in my case right now, the entire pie, all the calories in that pie. And I'm going to take out a part. So I ate what was considered just a part. In this case, the part was 25%, so a quarter of the pie. Now, these type of problems where we're finding the percent of a number, we see them often when we're doing discounts. So when you go to a store and you see that something's on sale, that means they took a percent of that original amount and they found that chunk of money that represents that percent and they took it off, hence why it was a discount. You also see percent of a number when you're paying a markup. Markups come in the form of tax or tip. When you're going to a restaurant and you're going to leave the server a nice tip, then you would call it a markup, where you're going to take a percent of how much your total bill was, and then that percent, after you figure out what that number is that represents that percent, then you would add it to it. That's why it's a markup. But for now, we're just going to stick with just finding the percent of a number. All right, there are multiple ways to do it, but we're going to do it to start our visual way using a bar diagram. Now we have a bar diagram. This represents 100% of the pie, of the apple pie. And the apple pie, I told you, started with 3,528 calories. That's how many calories were in the apple pie. Now, 25% of the apple pie is what I was going to eat. So we're going to break this 100% into groups of 25. And I know you're thinking ahead of me. You're like, ooh, I remember 4 quarters equal a dollar, so it'd be 4 groups. You're right, because each group will represent 25% of the apple pie. So now that we have it broken up into groups of 25, I can see easily that 3,528 is going to be broken into 4 groups. So I'm going to take 3,528 and I'm going to divide it by 4. Now these are calculator problems, so we're going to want to have our calculator handy because we get to use it. So I'm going to use my calculator and type in 3,528 divided by 4 because I want to split it evenly. Each 25% of the pie, so quarter of the pie, is going to have the same number of calories, and that comes to 882. So for this quarter of the pie, it was 882 calories. Same with this one, 882, 882, 882. That brings me back to my total of 3,528. Now I'm only going to eat 25% of it, and now that I know that 882 represents 25% of the pie, then I know that I ate 882 calories. And it was delicious. Next, we're going to continue with our notes so that we can further do this. Each time you are doing percent of a number, you're not always going to draw a bar diagram. But I do want you to understand what a bar diagram is and how beneficial it is. It helps you really visualize and picture what's happening. So to start with our notes, the essential question is going to be, how do you find the part when you know the percent and the original amount? So how do you find the part when you know the percent? And I'm going to use my percent sign to save space. If you're not going to remember that it means percent, then just write it out. And the original amount. Question mark. Woo, that was a long one. And I know for those of you who are wondering what's the topic is percent of a number. Can we see that? Oh, nope, off too far. Topic, percent of a number. And again, if you're not going to remember, that means the number sign. If you're still thinking hashtag, well, then you write out the number, the word number. All right. So going back, we have an opportunity to do a bar diagram, which we're going to practice again. But first, let's review. We spent a little while working on what percent means. So as a review, when we're looking at percent is always compared to 100. So it means parts per 100. And then if we do our bar diagram, we have a little problem here. 20% of 15 is what number? So this time, I'm going to draw my bar diagram. So again, I can visualize it. And 100% is the whole bar diagram. But I want to break it up into 20% chunks. So into 20% chunks. And I know what you're thinking. You're like, that means that'd be 5 chunks. So that's right. Because this would represent 20%, and then this would be another 20%, giving me 40, and this would be another 20%, giving me 60, another 20%, 80, and then the final 20%, 100. So you can see I broke it up into 5 sections. Well, each of those 5 sections has to have the same amount in it. So I would take 15 and divide it by 5, so I can give each one of those sections the same amount. In this case, 15 divided by 5, we can see is 3. So that means each one of these sections would represent 3. So if, let's say I went to Red Robin, yum, and I was going to buy a burger, and I had their lovely steak fries, and my bill came to $15. And I wanted to leave a 20% tip because my waitress was amazing. So if I was going to leave a 20% tip, that tells me I would be leaving $3 for their tip, because 20% of my bill, $15, would be 3. Now, earlier we went over there are many methods to solve percent problems, one of them being a bar diagram. Our other option would be to write an equation. Today we're going to go over the writing the equation portion. Now I know you're wondering what the second one is, and that one is called percent proportion. But we'll do that on a different day. All right, to write an equation, we need to know our key words. So keywords, we're going to put that. The first one is the lovely word is. When you see is for your equation, you're going to write the equal sign. So you're going to put just the symbol equal sign. It's that simple. And then when you see the word of, in your brain, you're going to train it to mean that you need to multiply. Really, that's it. You have those 2 key words that are going to help you form, so write your equation. So when we're writing the equation, it's going to be the percent of a number of a whole. So the whole number. So the original amount is what we're talking about. The whole number, the number we started with, it's going to equal, so it will give us the part. So from here, our step 1 to solve it, because I like my special steps, is to use the keywords. So we're going to use our keywords to write the equation. After you write the equation, it's basically going to tell you what to do. When we're solving for the percent of a number, then all you really do is multiply. So we're going to solve for the missing part. For right now, to solve the missing part, it's simply going to mean to multiply. So we're going to put that into practice. First one, what is 32% of 50? All right, so to start, we don't know what the what is. That's the missing part. So we're going to use the common variable x because we don't know what it is. And here is my first key word, is. And as we said before, is means put your equal sign, because the part is going to equal our percent. Now we have 32%. It's hard to work with in that form, but we can easily turn it into a decimal. That's much easier to work with. 32% as a decimal, you know, is 32 hundredths. Of means to multiply. Now I'm going to put parentheses here because it means to multiply. Anytime you have a number in front of parentheses, it means you're going to multiply what's inside the parentheses with the number outside. In this case, what's going to go inside is 50. So I have my keyword of here, which meant to multiply. And then all I do is solve for the missing part. So I have my calculator here to help me. And I see my missing part is going to be equal to whatever I get when I take 32 hundredths and multiply it with 50. So I'm going to type in 32 hundredths times 50. And my missing part is going to equal 16. So I put down 16, which means 16 is 32% of 50. 16 is 32% of 50. So I found out what that part was. We're going to practice with the next one. We have what is 73% of 40. So when I'm thinking about this, I know that 73% is way more than 50%. So I would expect my answer to be way more than half of 40. Now I know half of 40 is 20, so I'm going to expect it to be more than 20. If I got an answer that was less than 20, then that would be my signal that, oops, I did something wrong. All right, so let's form our equation. What? What means we don't know. That's our missing part. So we put x is our keyword. That means put equal. 73% means write it as a decimal, 73 hundredths. Of is our next keyword, which means I'm going to multiply. And I'm going to multiply 73 hundredths with my next number, 40. So to find out what number is going to make up 73%, so a big chunk of 40, we're going to find that out by multiplying. So I'm going to have x, and let me pull out my calculator. So we have 73 hundredths times 40 gives me 29.2. So 29 and 2 tenths. So 29 and 2 tenths. All right. So let's say I was like shopping, and while I was out, I saw these really cute boots, and they were on sale for 73% off. And I was like, woohoo! That would mean they would be taking off $29.20. That is a steal for sure. All right. And then our final one. Oh, wait, no, we got to finish this one. So that means 29 2/10 is 73% of 40. And as we notice, it is a lot more than our 20. So it's true, it's a lot more than 20, which is great, because it's 73% and 20 was only 50%. All right, and our final one. What is 128% of 550? Now, as I look at this percent, I can see I have way more than 100%, which means my final answer is actually going to be larger than my original amount. So this whole here, because I not only have the 550, but I have an extra 28% on top of that. So we're going to write it out. What, that's our missing part, is means to put your equal sign. 128% we would write as 1 28/100. We know of is our next keyword, which means I'm going to multiply, and I am multiplying that out with 550. All right, using my calculator. Oh man, you couldn't see, my bad. Using my calculator to solve, I have 1 28/100 times 550, and that brings me to 704. So 704. So 704 is 128%. So as I can see, it's way more than what I started with of 550. And that's how you find the percent of a number using the equation method.